If your business fails, it doesn't matter. Did you grow? If your business succeeds, it doesn't matter. Did you grow? And I found that really liberating because I was feeling like a failure for failing consistently. But when Rao changed my mental model, and he uses the word mental model, I started seeing failure as simply a means to growth. So when you see failure as a means to growth, you become immune to failure. I want to share the 4 values and how to implement them in your life. Now, you don't have to take all 4. You could take 1 or 2 or 3. You might develop your own value. But the important here is the philosophical understanding and then the application. If you don't apply, then the understanding is nothing more than fuzz at the back of your mind. Now, the first value actually came from Rao himself. Rao was speaking at Mindvalley live in Los Angeles. And after he got off stage, he came and approached me and he said, Vishen, we got to take these ideas bigger. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, I teach at the best MBA schools in America, and I can tell you that they are teaching the wrong thing. So I'm like, do tell. He says, they teach you that your life is about your career and your money, and that's wrong. So I'm like, what should they teach? And he goes, what they should teach is this. I now call this rule number 1. And it says, your work is not about your work. Rather, your work is nothing more than the greatest vehicle for your personal evolution. He said, personal growth, perpetual growth, should be your ultimate identity. And you must put your personal growth before everything else. Now, this part may get a little bit controversial. Before your work, before the title of CEO, before your billion-dollar company, before your marriage, and before your children. If you agree, feel free to snap. If you don't agree, don't do anything. I'm not saying you have to agree. Like I said, these are just philosophies, right? I'm simply stating what Rao said. He says, if you make personal growth first, everything else grows. So it doesn't make you selfish, but everything else grows. But what happens is you escape from the rules that tell you how to be and what to do. And that is when you're truly operating from your soul. So this becomes rule 1. In fact, what Rao said is that if your business fails, it doesn't matter. Did you grow? If your business succeeds, it doesn't matter. Did you grow? And I found that really liberating because I was feeling like a failure for failing consistently. But when Rao changed my mental model, and he uses the word mental model, I started seeing failure as simply a means to growth. So when you see failure as a means to growth, you become immune to failure. And that is the real beauty here. So Rao's rule is also best illustrated in this really cool quote I saw a friend share on Instagram. And it says this, grow so fast, your old friends have to get to know you all over again. So I want to introduce you to a term, right? I call it R.O.S E, rate of self-evolution. Your rate of self-evolution. Your rate of self-evolution, or your R.O.S E, must be the ultimate thing in your life. In other words, your life needs to be about personal growth. Many of us forget that. We make our life about our children. That's wrong. If you look at the concept of conscious parenting, which Shefali Sabari teaches, your children are nothing more than the vehicle for your greatest evolution. She, Shefali, who has been on Oprah 7 times, says, you are not there to teach your children. Your children are souls to teach you. Likewise, your work and your business is not there for the title or the money. No, those are bullshit constructs from the culturescape. You will get that if you make your business about making you grow. So personal growth becomes everything. Now, I want to introduce another idea, which I really like. This comes from the book, Atomic Habits. So in the book, the author says that we often approach personal growth wrong. We want to lose weight, so we say, it's going to be about the process. I am going to do this particular exercise. Or it becomes about the outcome. I am going to go from 30% body fat to 20% body fat. And the book says that's actually wrong. Don't think about outcome. Don't think about process. You really want to shift identity. Think, I am born with this incredible body, which is going to stay young and athletic forever. Or I am a Spartan. Or I am always healthy, fit, and muscular. When you make it about the identity, you get the outcome. and the process becomes effortless. You don't have to use willpower. So one of the first things we did at Mindvalley was we started changing the identity of everyone in our team. That's actually a picture of Mindvalley people at the gym in the morning. Everyone in that picture works at Mindvalley, cheering each other on like people are going through a fitness test over here. And the cool thing about when you shift your identity, you've heard the phrase, right? You are the sum of the 5 people closest to you. Everyone around you, you infect their identity as well. It's one of the reasons why, this tribe is so powerful. When you get on WildFit or when you get into shape, it ripples. Jason Campbell. Jason, could you run on stage, please? And do you mind taking off your shirt as you do so? No, okay, you don't have to, but Jason, come on stage, just for kicks. Just for kicks. Jason, no, I'm serious. Would you mind taking off your shirt? What? No? Your girl... What? Okay. So the reason, it was a legit question. So Jason was a chubby Canadian guy. Like I literally remember a conversation with him. He had come back from December, back with his parents in Canada. He's like, Vishen, they fed me so much cheese. And Jason was interviewing a tribe member, right? Who was the tribe member you were interviewing?
I don't know about the tribe member, but you just remind me of a memory when I came back at team retreat, and the first thing you said after not seeing me for a few weeks, you're like, Jason, you look so big. Thanks, Vishen.
So you were interviewing Jimmy. You were interviewing a tribe member, Jimmy. So Jimmy is Jimmy Narain. You guys know Jimmy, right? Okay, so Jimmy Narain's an A-Fester. He's been to multiple A-Fest. Jason was interviewing Jimmy, and Jimmy is really fit. And Jason said, how do you do that? And Jimmy says, well, I have this identity that I am a Spartan. And that struck something in Jason's mind. The very next day, within 24 hours, Jason implemented that identity. He signed up for Spartan Race. He ran his first Spartan Race and took 4 people from Mindvalley with him. It was in the middle of a typhoon in the Philippines. And 5,000 people ran in the middle of a typhoon. Now, that was so exciting. The next Spartan Race, 27 people ran. And the next Spartan Race, 40 people ran. And today, when you join Mindvalley, if you are a guy, we don't measure this for women, but only men, you lose 10 kilograms in your first year. And typically by year 2, you're running a Spartan race. So we have more like abs, visible abs per male than probably any other company out there. So
all I'll say is we're all going to be wearing costumes tonight, so you might have a chance to see the abs then.
Right. But my point is, Jason infected an entire culture with that attitude. So every morning people are working out together, people are training for the Spartan race, and that's what identity shift does. Okay, so thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
Although I'm so disappointed you kept your damn shirt on. So the toolkit is identity shift. How do you engineer identity shifts? I learned this really powerful technique from Christy Marie Sheldon. She's one of our Mindvalley teachers. Now, she calls it lofty questions. So first, you decide the areas of your life that you want to create anew. And now, in the morning, during your meditation, you do not say an affirmation. You raise a question to your subconscious. You see, affirmations don't work. Jose Silva, the great mind science pioneer, established that in the 1980s. If you are not in a healthy state and you say, why am I so ripped and muscular? In the back of your mind, there's going to be a little voice that says, no, you aren't ripped and muscular, you liar. You ate that pizza last night. And if you're going, what voice? I don't have that voice. That's the voice. So, you guys got that? So lofty questions are different. You trick your subconscious. You don't give a statement that your subconscious is going to inevitably make you deny. You actually create a statement like that. Why do I wake up every day feeling connected to sauce? Why am I such a powerful learner? Why am I running a $100 million company? Why do I have such a living and exciting relationship? Why do I have the fit, muscular body of an athlete? These are all lofty statements that I do. Right now, the beautiful thing about lofty statements, and you can design your own. The beautiful thing about lofty statements is your mind cannot deny them. Rather, you are posing a question to your subconscious. And if you're in the right state of flow, I believe that it activates your subconscious to find you the answers. So let's look at that last one, right? Why do I have the fit, muscular body of an athlete? I started saying that in January 2016. January 2016, and I was not fit. I mean, I was okay, right? But, I was at maybe 22% body fat. I met Eric Edmeades 2 weeks later. Is Eric in the room? There he is. I met Eric Edmeades 2 weeks later. He was teaching people the WildFit diet. I got on WildFit. 90 days later, I'd gone down to 14% body fat. It was amazing how fast it worked. I tried to lose weight for 10 years. I couldn't. I tried to have a disciplined gym practice for 10 years. I couldn't. Within weeks of stating this using this statement, my body shifted. I was disciplined. I was only attracted to good food. And then weird synchronicities like meeting Eric came into my life. I got on WildFit. Now it didn't stop. 6 months after WildFit, I'd lost weight, but I wasn't still athletic. I bumped into a guy who works at Mindvalley, and it turns out he's like a workout genius, Lorenzo. He developed the 10X protocol, and now he starts training me. And then, from that, the ripples start happening. 100 people from my team went into WildFit and then into 10X. And now that statement for me is true. Now I state it to maintain it. So it's crazy how when you shift your identity at a subconscious level, the world shifts. But remember what Michael Beckwith said, the law of attraction is incomplete. It's really the law of resonance. When you change who you are, the world will shift to ensure that who you are is true. So it starts inside. Don't think attraction, think resonance. So that was value number one. But you get there when you embrace personal growth as the number one thing. So I want to encourage you to try the lofty questions exercise. If you want to go deeper, get on Google, just search for lofty questions, Mindvalley. You'll find a free 5-minute video on it. Now the second thing is envisioning. Being dedicated to your personal growth is amazing. But how many people do we know who have great bodies or who spend so much time meditating, but they are broke? They're not contributing to the world. Especially true with many spiritual people. I believe the point of spirituality is not just to go within, it's to go into introspection so we can emerge and actually shake up the world. I call it the unification of the Buddha and the badass. You want to merge both. The world doesn't need more Buddhas. The world needs Buddhas who are badasses. Ken Wilber, in his famous essay, Egolessness, said, the great spiritual saints and sages of the world, from Moses to Padmasambhava to Jesus, were not feeble-minded milquetoast. They were movers and shakers, from bullwhips in the temple to subduing entire continents. They rattled the world with the force of their ego. So, as you embrace personal growth, it doesn't remove you from the world. If you do, that is not personal growth. That's probably a cult. You want to embrace personal growth where you worship the Buddha, you go within, but you use the insight, the Satori moments, the intuition from that to get out there and fucking shake up the world. Agree? So, this gives us rule number 2. Dream big. And when you dream big, the problems become small. Too many people in the world are worried about stupid small shit. The guy who didn't text them back, for example. But when you dream big, what happens is the little stuff doesn't matter because you have something far, far, far greater. Michael Beckwith said, this is the difference between needing motivation, needing to be pushed towards a vision, or having a vision for your life that's so big that it pulls you. He says, when you get it right, motivation is bunk. You do not need to attend motivational seminars because you are pulled by a vision. You do not need to be pushed to get there. Agree? So, when you dream big, your problems become small, which is why what I try to do in my life is always try to dream bigger and bigger and bigger. So after AFES became successful, we decided to try Mindvalley University, for example. You got to keep your mind focused on bigger and bigger things. So you got to be happy and grateful. All of that is great, but you got to keep envisioning a better vision for yourself. So here's the toolkit. Now, interestingly enough, the toolkit to being able to take on bold goals starts with having small goals. Elon Musk gave a really famous interview to Neil deGrasse Tyson, the famous physicist, and Neil asked Elon, how do you have the cojones to go out there and start Tesla and SpaceX and PayPal and tackle all of these big things? And Elon Musk said, when I was a college kid in America, I decided to do an experiment. I decided to see if I could live on $1 a day. And he found out he could. He could go to Walmart, buy ramen noodles for like 50 cents a package in bulk, and live on $1 a day. He was living in a student dorm, so he didn't have to pay rent. And he said, that gave me the sense of safety, that I could do bigger things. When I knew my survival was guaranteed, I was able to think really big. So many of us have irrational fears that come from evolution as pre-humans in the savannas. But when we understand that the world is ultimately safe, we give ourselves liberty to do big things. So the technique here, and this is what I implemented, is something called self-fueled goals. So you have big goals, yes, but as a baseline, you have goals so simple that you can activate them instantly. The definition of a self-fueled goal is this. If everyone you knew in your life abandoned you and you had no one, and you were homeless in the streets of New York with no money, could you still hit these goals? Let's look at them. Why am I always surrounded by love? Notice these goals are worded as lofty questions. When you truly understand love, you find that love comes from within. The ultimate love is love of yourself. Agree? Now, you can be homeless. You can have no one around you. But if you know that you can activate love within, that goal is activated. The second thing is, why am I always learning and growing? Learning is free these days. You can be homeless in the streets of New York. You can still go to the public library and check out a book. It's free. Now, the third one is, why is the universe always unfolding for me in the most amazing way? If you're homeless in the streets of New York, take a walk down Central Park. You can still do that. It's free. And you will be gifted with the most amazing nature and scenery you can imagine. That is the universe unfolding for you. So when you understand, when I started to understand that I could be homeless on the streets of New York, all neediness disappeared. All fears disappeared. The idea that I might lose my company disappeared. It just didn't matter anymore because I knew I was safe on planet Earth. And so the trick to big goals starts with the little goals. And when you know that the little things, the self-fuel goals are there, you can think big. But that's just step one. So in my 3 most important questions under experiences, growth, and contribution, they are little goals, but they're also big goals. But the little goals, they're the foundation. You got to have both. Too many people forget these little goals. Write them down. Think about what are the little things you want in life. Maybe it's to always love yourself. Maybe it's to always feel connected to Source. Maybe it's to always appreciate your body. You can start on these immediately. But now, you need what I call the bold goals. Now, for the bold goals, what we implemented in Mindvalley was actually a secret we learned from Google. And it's called the Google Goals technique. Larry Page invented this. Really simple. This is a great thing to do in your business. 50% of your goals should have a 50% chance of failure. So literally it means if you're using OKRs, if you have 4 or 5 goals for the year, 1 to 2 of your goals should have a 50% chance of failure. If you have say 8 goals, 4 of them or 2 should have a 50% chance of failure. That means it's a coin flip. Now when you do this, 2 things happen. Number 1, you truly dream big. And number 2, when failure happens, it's okay. That was the whole point. So, in Google's culture, 40% of all their corporate goals they fail at. Their failure rate is 40%. Google failed on Google Buzz, Google failed on Google+, but it also gave the world YouTube and Gmail and the Android phone. But by making it a stated goal to have goals that have a 50% chance of failure, you unlock yourself to really dream big and to have moonshots. So this became a really important rule. So at Mindvalley, every department has that, the company has that, and soon every individual is going to have that. Okay, so that is idea number 2. Now the third one, really simple, unity. So again, you can be a creator. You can be incredibly self-transformed. But unity is the one that ensures that you are a healthy cell for the human race, and you're not manipulating or cheating or taking advantage of other people, right? You're doing it for the good of the world. This brings us to rule number 3. Your life is not about you. Rather, your life is about the lives of everyone you touch. Now, this rule came in a really interesting way. We were at Mindvalley University in Barcelona. Neil Donald Walsh, who wrote Conversations with God, had come down. Because what many people don't know is that Mindvalley University was inspired partially by the future societies that Neil wrote about in his Conversations with God books. So I brought him down to teach the class. There were about 300 of you in a room. And one of you, she may even be in this room, raised a hand and said, Neil, what do I do in those situations when I wake up in the morning and I feel sad or depressed or unworthy? And Neil said, remember, your life is not about you. Rather, your life is about the lives of everyone you touch. When you remember this, and when you make your life about service, you will never wake up feeling depressed or lonely or afraid or worried again. He went on to say, when you walk in a room, set an intention to heal the room. Even if you're 1 out of 400 people coming in, make your life about service. So the whole crowd was really like taken in by this idea and really resonated with it. If you do, give us a snap. So how do you do that? Well, you got to identify what is called your North Star. Your North Star is that part of you that you want to use to serve the world. Elon Musk, really simple, his North Star is colonizing Mars. And the fact is, you don't have to know how to get to your North Star. I got to have an audience with Elon Musk once. And I remember he told our group, when we asked him, so, what's the big picture? This was like 2015, before, he was as famous as he is today. And he says, I want to colonize Mars. And he also said this, he said, it's probably going to happen in around 10 years. I don't know yet how to get there. I'm thinking around 10 years. I sometimes miss my deadlines. He was really humble about it. But when you think about how Elon Musk talks, he doesn't talk about how he runs a rocket company. He talks about how he's going to colonize Mars, and that's what excites his employees. Do you know SpaceX is the #1 company great engineers want to join? But there are 19 other companies that do the same thing. Jeff Bezos has Blue Horizons. But why SpaceX gets all the attention, even though all SpaceX is a vertical trucking company. Regular trucking company moves goods this way. SpaceX moves goods this way, vertical trucking. But it's the most desirable company to join for the world's greatest engineers because Musk doesn't talk about vertical trucking. He talks about colonizing that red planet. You see, the secret here is to always have a frame of reference where you imagine your life 10 years ahead for your business, for your craft. So I started something really interesting. When people would ask me, what did Mindvalley do? I actually would not talk about what we were doing now. I would talk about what we were doing in the future. If you look at our website from 2016, when I started embracing this, and you can go back on archive.org, you will see I spoke about starting a university. I spoke about going into health. All of that happened. WildFit, Mindvalley University. I spoke about what wanted to happen 10 years in the future. What's funny about this is when you speak about the future as if it's now, people want to follow you. Customers want to buy from you. People want to be part of this future. And it's okay if you fail, because remember, 50% of your goals are supposed to have a 50% chance of failure anyway. And I state that. I'm like, all right, this is the future I'm going to build, but half of it is not going to happen. Do you want in? And people want in. So this is one of the most amazing things. It is the power of speaking about your life and what you're doing 10 years into the future. Try it tonight. When somebody asks you, that awkward question, what do you do? Pretend. So now, how do you embrace this future thinking, and how do you bring this into your company? Now, there is a trick to it, right? The future that you want to build has to be a future that supports unity. Elon Musk doesn't want to colonize Mars so he can be the first man on Mars. He wants to colonize Mars so he can back up the human race and make us an interplanetary species that is thinking about the other 8 billion cells that make up the human colossus. That's how you want to talk about the future. Now, maybe you run a company that is not working on something that bold and ambitious. Srikumar Rao once told me about a story where he was teaching a class, and the CEO in the class ran a company that manufactured window glass. And the CEO said, Srikumar, how do I speak about 10 years in the future? All I do is provide a commodity that's glass. And Rao said, but isn't it true that for 1 week every year in your community, where you employ 200 people, you take all your employees and you allow them to go and work for non-profits, like an orphanage or a soup kitchen, and you pay their salaries for a week? That is how you contribute. You're helping contribute to a more compassionate world. So speak about that. You, he told the CEO, are taking a stand for service. Speak about that. It doesn't matter that you manufacture glass. If people know that that is the core and the soul of your company, they will want to join you, and you will inspire people. So Rao, in other words, said, don't try to be inspirational. Instead, be inspired. This CEO wasn't inspirational, but he was inspired by the people who worked in soup kitchens, by the people who clothed the homeless, and he wanted to give his employees that experience. So how do you do it? The toolkit is take a stand. Like Martin Luther King spoke a lot about this. He said, power without love is reckless and abusive. Love without power is sentimental and anemic. Power at its best is love implementing the demands of justice, and justice at its best is power correcting everything that stands against love. So you take a stand. For example, when me and Eric did a WildFit campaign last year, we took a stand against Nestle. It became the biggest news story in Malaysia, and what we wanted to do was expose how Nestle was getting kids addicted to sugary drinks and putting it up as energy drinks. And it was huge. It became the biggest story in the country for 7 days, and Nestle lost their health ratings for their Milo, which is a crappy product, in Australia, New Zealand, and they introduced zero sugar Milo in Singapore. partially because we took a stand against this $80 billion company. Another thing I wanted to share, and Marsha Wieder, who's in the audience, asked me to share this video today because she said it really touched her. When Mindvalley was going through this shift in 2016, right, when Trump won the election, we felt that while we hope he does well, there were certain things he said that were very much against our value of unity. We're a country that employs people from 54 countries. Ola Abbas, who runs our big events in the US, happens to be from Sudan, a country whose nationals Trump wanted to completely ban from entering the US. So I'm like, no way Trump is going to affect my Sudanese friend here. We need to speak out. So my team and I created this video. Now remember, back then we weren't as big as we were, but we took a stand. And it's very important that if you absorb the value of unity, you act on it, and you stand up for what really matters. So this is the video that we created.
We are going to build a wall.
I stand for love.
I stand for peace.
I stand for unity,
Education.
the environment,
Equality.
I stand for refugees.
In an age of dangerous politics, don't let bullies force you to sit down.
to tell you you're being too political or unpatriotic,
When you speak your truth.
To tell you
You can't stand tall.
or that you don't belong here. Speak up, rise up,
Unite.
And to those who dare to stand,
Our team is really proud of that video. And the funny thing is, when we did that, people are like, why would you release this? You'll just turn off, some of your customers. But actually, what happened is when we released this video, within 6 months, it was insane how much Mindvalley grew. Because people realized that we weren't just in it for the buck, that we actually wanted to make a change in the world. And we still embody a lot of these values. For example, I'm really big on refugees. So at Mindvalley University, I'm sponsoring true Syrian refugee teenagers to come and attend the classes, because I want our children who are going to be at Mindvalley University to understand what a Syrian refugee went through. I think that's one of the most incredible things to learn from, and hopefully befriend a refugee and open up their minds to the plight of 100 million displaced people in the world. Regular education doesn't teach you that. So the stand is something that's so important, but all of it comes from the value of unity, of ensuring that your compassion, your love extends outside just the borders of your nation or your gender or your industry, to all people, everywhere. And that brings us to the fourth value, which is love. So Khalil Gibran said, all work is empty, save when there is love. And when you work with love, you bind yourself to yourself and to one another and to God. So that's really what this one is about. And this one, too, became a value that I wanted to anchor in with a rule. And the rule is, we do our best work when we care for each other and we are cared for. So this became one of the underlying values of Mindvalley. It can also be a really good value for this particular tribe. Now, this value is actually really powerful. Just a few months ago, Stanford released one of its top programs to the world. And 95% of Stanford MBAs have taken this course, and they started offering the course online free for the first time. Now, what's really interesting is the course is $5,500. You can take, a week-long one for $16,000. It's expensive, but you know what the course is about? Stanford graduates actually refer to this as the touchy-feely course. That's the nickname that they call it. And it's really about understanding that true unicorn employees are those that have two strong, seemingly unrelated skills. One left brain, logic, analytic reasoning, and one right brain, intuition and creativity. But the intuition and creativity are fueled when we are kind and compassionate to each other. In other words, in the workplace, if you want to succeed, you basically compete on one thing, and that is kindness. And so what we try to do is to figure out how can we make love part of everything we do. I love seeing comments like this about Mindvalley. I went from, I only care about myself and my family, the rest can go and figure it out on their own, to I love all humans and entities in the universe, and I have a responsibility to protect them. So that is the value that we try to put into everything we do. If you agree, snap. So toolkits, really interesting new ideas, right? Now, the first idea is the concept of rules versus feelings. So I've always found that no one I ever met could really tell me the true difference between masculine leadership and feminine leadership. We hear these words tossed around. I've looked at many different leadership people talk about it. No one I felt could really explain it until I met this man, Ken Wilber. So Ken Wilber wrote a book called Integral Vision, and in that book, he cites a feminist philosopher by the name of Carol Gilligan. And when Ken explained this to me, it changed a lot of things. Carol Gilligan said that even if males take on the ideas of unity and love, or masculine rather, they express it in a way which is rule dominant. So even if you look at Martin Luther King, who was very world-centric, very loving, it's about justice, it's about rights, it's about rules first. But he says that with women, or Carol Gilligan says that with women, with the feminine, it's about feelings first, feelings beyond the rules. With male, it's rules beyond the feelings. So for example, Carol Gilligan says that if you look at a group of boys playing baseball, and one guy strikes out and he has to go on the bench, he goes on the bench. But let's say that boy was crying. The other guys are like, oh, come on, you struck out, just soak it up, like be a man. But woman would say, he's crying, there are tears streaming down his face. Forget the rules, just give him another chance at bat. So masculine and feminine operate in a different way. Now this is reflected in the company as well. So what it means is that you care for rules and feelings. Recently, about a year ago, we had a person who was fired from our company. And we followed the rules. HR followed the rules. She was not performing well. The manager didn't want to rehire her. She had gone on extended leave, and she hadn't checked in as much. And so she was let go, following the rules. Straight up termination. However, the other part of the story is she was gone on extended leave because her mother had died, and she wanted to be by her mom on her deathbed. But what HR did was operate completely from the masculine perspective. I'm sorry, but the performance isn't there. We need this job filled. We can't give you your role back. Now, the feminine leadership, as per Carol Gilligan, would be different. So this person ended up writing to me and saying, Vishen, I think Mindvalley has no values, because how the hell could you treat me like this? And I agreed with her. What had happened through HR was wrong. And so we decided that we still follow the rules. We couldn't let her, we couldn't give her the job because her manager didn't want her. But we had to take into account the feelings she was going through. So we decided to give her the biggest severance package we'd ever given anyone. We gave her 5 months full salary so she could get back on her feet, recover, heal, start a new business, or get a new job. And as soon as we did that, the masculine side of HR came up again and said, but you can't do that because now everyone is going to ask for 5 months severance. But both sides came together and we said, okay, we're going to establish a simple bylaw that says we will care for people and create a compassionate leave policy. If someone is going through a lot of struggle, a lot of pain, no worries, we will ensure that we give them 5 months severance. So you see, you can merge both. And when you merge both, this is when you really create like the healthy dynamic. Does everyone get that? So we started merging both. When we bring our teachers or our speakers into A-Fest, we care about how they feel. We care about how they feel when they walk up. We care about their experience at the costume parties on the final day. Like tonight, I'm actually body painting several of our speakers. Because we don't want them to just come, no, that's not just like a weird kink I have. We don't want to just come, like get on a stage and leave. We want to make sure that they truly feel part of this tribe. And you can do this in many different ways. You can infuse love into the workplace. Many of you have seen how Mindvalley incorporates Love Week. There's a really great video on this online. If you get a chance, check it out. It's just called Love Week Mindvalley. It's 1 week during Valentine's Day when everyone in the company just like appreciates each other. Okay, so those are the 4 things. Now, those are the 4 values that completely shifted it for me. So what happened is I stopped thinking, okay, CEOs do this. I stopped getting obsessed with the P&L. I simply decided to be the values, to be transformation, to be envisioning, to be unity, to be love. And when that happens, what's going on is that you're truly listening to your soul. You're truly listening to what your soul wants. And everything else starts falling into place. You move from kensho, or growth through pain, to satori, or growth to insight. Now, you can absorb any of those 4 values you want. My values are pretty generic. But do you have unique values to yourself? I bet you do. And the clue lies in your wounding. Rumi was insightful in many ways, but another great Rumi quote is this: the wound is the place where the light enters. And what this means is that when you get wounded, light will go through that wound. And this light might be your best, your most incredible gift of insight. Remember, Adam Roa took the stage this morning and spoke about being molested at the age of 5. And Adam has gone on to become the love poet because he had to find all the ways he could to forgive and love back the man who cruelly violated him. And today his YouTube channel is all about truly understanding love. His wound was the place where the light enters. Think back to a moment where you went through deep pain, and you'll find your values came from pain. The most compassionate people who want to inject compassion in their workplaces were acted cruelly upon. The people who were abused are the people who stand for the opposite of abuse, for love and forgiveness. Your values come from your pain. And that is one of the great secrets of life. Your pain is often not your pain. Your suffering doesn't have to be suffering. Viktor Frankl said, suffering ceases to be suffering at the moment it finds its meaning. And so the great exercise that I want you guys to do as you go home after this A-Fest is to actually think back on the times that you went through that big kensho moment. It may be something painful, but what was your soul trying to gift you in terms of meaning? And when that meaning comes, it ceases to become suffering. It just becomes an incident in your life that sparked the greatness in you. So now, when we go back to this poem, think about what it means. When I run after what I think I want, my days are a furnace of distress and anxiety. Don't follow the status quo. As Beckwith said, you are not here to fill the status quo. You're here to take a hammer to it and smash it. But if you sit in your own place of patience, what you need flows to you without any pain. You're listening within. From this, you understand that what you want also wants you, is looking for you and attracting you. And there's a great secret in this for anyone who can grasp it. So the exercise looks like this. This was the actual sheet of paper that Amir Ahmad took me through when I did this values exercise. And I want to explain what's going on over here. So we're going to break it down because you should, when you get a chance, do this as well. It'll take you around 2 to 3 hours, but I promise you it's one of the greatest things you can do. So first, the first question is, Amir told me to write down what are the things that I offer to the world. So back then in 2016, we offered courses, events, we offered challenges or quests, and we offered community, as in the A-Fest tribe. Then he said, what are the values or beliefs that most resonate with you? Like, what are words that you hear in a song that make your heart skip a beat? What are ideas that inspire you? What's the poetry or the movies that enlighten you? And I made this long list. Okay, transformation, connectedness, compassion, growth as a goal, humanism, aesthetics, vision, happiness. It took me around 1 to 2 hours to really make this list. And then you go through every item in the list and you add a number to it to cluster it. So all the ones, you see, transformation, growth as a goal, transcendence, all relate to transformation. You give it one word. It's all really the same thing. All the number 2s, compassion, connectedness, humanism, are all related to unity. So I gave it the word unity or connectedness. All the number 3s, aesthetics, vision, all relate to, like this one, vision. And then you'll notice that there's a couple of others, futurism, questioning, all of these like rely. Those were too little, so you discarded them. You want to arrive at around 3 or 4. Now my number 4 was happiness, love. That became the value of love. So initially I wrote down connectedness, transformation, vision. Amir told me to start with 3. Later on I added love. But these evolved. Connectedness became unity. Transformation became transformation, growth as a goal. Vision became envisioning, and love became the fourth value. So that's really where it came from. This piece of paper changed my life. This piece of paper taught me to unplug from the rules of the modern world, to really listen to my soul, to understand what is it that made me come to earth, and to truly listen within. And when I did that, everything in Mindvalley shifted. It was, and the shift was so remarkable, like it almost sounds magical. I went from 3 years of pain and suffering and feeling like the universe was like against me, to 3 years of the most incredible growth where I wake up every day going, holy shit, my life is magical. But everyone has access to this. But to get there, you got to go really deep within. The answer is all within. And so I want to encourage you to do this exercise, to really embody this and to bring it back into your life. And as you go forward to try to scale your influence, remember, don't fall prey to the rules of the modern world. Everything you need to know, the insight, comes from sitting in your space of patience and going within. And that was really the lesson I wanted to share. Thank you all.